It's the drawing show. It's the drawing show.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to walk you through a typical morning routine for me, and usually that involves drawing a portrait. So let's go through the steps of how I go about doing that. So right now I am just drawing a circle in my page. That helps me kind of get a good set size for the portrait that I'm going to draw. It also helps me with just blocking in the portrait a little bit here. Right now I'm doing a little bit of measurement and figuring out the angle because the reference's head is at a slight angle. I think I end up changing that a little bit later on, but that is part of the process. Part of the process is just going for it and putting down lines and seeing if it works. So especially in this part of the process is great for assessing, putting down some lines, getting it, relatively close or how you think it is, and then sitting back and taking another look at it and reassessing the stuff that you're doing to see if it's right or if you have to change it. Right now I'm doing a little bit more measurement, figuring out the distance between the brow line and the nose and the chin. Those are all relatively equal distances from each other. From the hairline to the brow to the nose to the chin. And roughly, typically figuring out your space from the brow line to the chin, because that can be kind of difficult. It's kind of typically about the same. So you can get that measurement, and then the nose line is going to be right in between those. So you see here I'm kind of changing that angle a little bit. It is good to get those angles changed before you get too far in the process, because it does get a little tricky to change those things once you've got a bunch of detail already put in there. So I've talked about this before, about drawing, and this is a part of the drawing that can be, for some people, what's the right word? Boring. So this is the part, you just gotta do it a bunch, and you gotta, if drawing is something that you want to do, you gotta do stuff like this a lot. And at the beginning, one of the reasons why I think it can get kind of boring for some people is that it's hard for them to see what it's going to lead to. And at this point in the drawing, it doesn't look like much. It's not very exciting. And that can kind of just make you not want to keep going. So, but it is very necessary when you're building a portrait to try to get some kind of likeness. Is you really got to build these things up slowly and develop them. So I'm taking a little bit of extra time here, just making sure I'm getting those elements of the face in the right spots, getting good angles. Here I'm kind of roughly putting in the shape of the nose, the bridge of the nose. And when I'm looking at this stuff, I'm looking at shapes. Shapes of the face in relation to each other. So I'm not just throwing down lines, but I'm also taking into account the space in between those lines and the types of shapes that they're creating. And I'm looking for shapes that look good. Good symmetry, good beefy shapes. Sometimes you'll get smaller shapes, but you want things that feel good. It's hard to explain that, but it's just part of what it is, I guess. So now I'm kind of getting in the ears. The ears are relatively going to be the same height as the brow line and the ear and the nose. And that's typically, if you have a portrait that's straight on like this, look closely at the position of the ears, because that's going to tell you a lot about the direction of the face, the direction that the face is pointing. So if the ears are slightly up on the head, like the top of the ear looks like it's above the eyebrow, that means the person's face is kind of pointing down a little bit. And then opposite is true. If they're down below a little bit, that means the face is pointing up. So just keep a lookout for that. Now I'm blocking in the eyes. The eyes can be very difficult to get right. To get them on the same line. Even though you draw a cross line there, and you get those eyes planted dead set on that line, by the time you start getting them in, drawing them in, and even rendering them out, you'll step back and one will look like it's miles higher above the other one. I don't know. It's a tough thing to get right, but you just got to keep working on it. And one thing that helps is using a mirror. So especially after you're staring at your drawing for a while, your eye kind of gets used to what you're drawing, and everything just kind of looks normal, looks good, nothing looks wrong with it, until you kind of get a different perspective. So you can use a mirror. What you do is you point the mirror at your drawing, and then you look at the drawing through the mirror so that the image is mirrored. So the left is on the right and the right is on the left. And just that any problems that are happening on your drawing will they'll like jump out at you. Um, you can also turn your drawing upside down. I feel like the drawing, turning it upside down, I think is actually it's a good method, especially when you're working closely with a reference, because you can get some distances that you get wrong or angles that you get wrong. Those will get a little bit more obvious. Sometimes you'll use the mirror method and you'll be like, dang, that looks funky, that looks weird, but it's really hard to tell why. And you just gotta look at it for a while and kind of look back and forth between your reference and the photo or the drawing, and you know, use your detective skills and figure it out. It's another one of those things, man, is drawing is, it's all about observation. It's about how closely you can look at those details and figure things out. And also step back and get the full picture. So you're doing this, you're getting these observational skills in a lot of different ways. And it's about developing that eye. It's about developing that skill of observation. And it really is a skill. It seems like it would be a lot easier because when you think about it, I'm just looking at it. Well, you're also interpreting, and it's not as easy sometimes as you think it is. And it's that observation, but it's also a willingness to work hard at it. You know, I've been drawing here on this video for 13 minutes now, and this is what we have so far. Kind of a long drawing. It's taking a while. But this, the patience and the discipline does pay off. Even if at the end of this drawing you're not really happy with the drawing itself, it really teaches you a lot and gives you a little bit more perspective and helps you as you approach your next drawing. So think about that the next time you sit down to draw. Don't just think, oh, it doesn't matter because, you know, the next drawing will be good, or, you know, whatever. Really take your time with it and, you know, try to get a good drawing out of it. And, you know, it is hard to not have a good drawing at the end of it and be like, all right, well, you know, whatever, I'll move on. Because it's helping me and teaching me into the next drawing, which is true. But no, I get it. I mean, it's not so easy to do that, but you really do have to be able to move on to the next drawing. And even if it's not a drawing that you would really want to show anybody, it is helpful and will help you as you continue to draw. You know, there was a point when I was drawing, and I just felt like I could not figure it out. Nothing was working. Everything I was drawing was coming out horrible. And I was like, alright, well, I thought I was good at drawing, but I guess I'm not, so I'll probably just stop. I really was just gonna stop drawing because I could not figure it out, and nothing was working. But you know what? I decided I don't care. I don't care if I'm making some bad drawings. I am going to push myself to get up every morning and draw for an hour or two. And that's what I did. And it took me probably a couple months before I started figuring some things out. Started getting happier with my final drawings. And what I think happened that is even more important than decent drawings was that, man, I really fell in love with the process of it. Even more than getting a good drawing at the end of it. It became something that I enjoyed getting up in the morning to do. I was getting excited about the next day and what I was about to do, which was just drawing. I'm not, there's something about it that it can help you get up in the morning. Even if you don't do anything with it. Even if I don't do anything with it besides, post some drawings on the internet. I really think that it can, it has already added a lot to my life. And I've got a pretty good life. Not gonna lie, I've been very blessed. But drawing has definitely added a lot. So if you're thinking that you want to do something else with your life, create some things, even if it's just for yourself, even if it's just something that you show your friends and your family, or if it's something you want to show more people and you want to post it online, or you want to do some art shows, or whatever. I highly encourage picking up drawing because it is a discipline. It is something you do have to stick with and put some time into, but it is cheap. It doesn't take up a lot of space. All you need is some paper and a pencil, and that's it. So alright, I've been kind of just rambling while I've been drawing here. So we've got some more details put in here. We're kind of figuring some things out with this face. Working on these eyes right now. Trying to get them on the same line here. Also, so we've got some shapes going on in this face. We've got that triangle on her right side. We've kind of figured out more or less the shape of her nose. So that triangle, and you can see that in the reference, she's got some direct light coming in from the left side. So that whole right side of her face is in shadow. And that's nice. I mean, it's obvious to see, and that makes shading a little bit easier. And I do recommend when you are practicing shading, you're working on shading, is maybe starting with something like this where it's got a direct light source on it and you've got some obvious shadows. Because finding the shadows on something that's maybe either the light source is going directly at it, so you don't have like an obvious cast shadow from one side of the face to the other, or it's more diffused light, and so there isn't a hard shadow anywhere. That can be kind of tricky, but those are really good observational training things. So this whole portrait so far, something that I still need to work on is keeping things very simple. You get more complex as you go, as you add details, but the simpler the better. And that was one of those things that I eventually learned as I was drawing, was starting out as simple as I could. It was very tempting for me to just start off with the details. I really wasn't blocking anything in. I was using really hard lines. And, I was getting frustrated because nothing was coming out the way that I wanted it to. So, start simple. Slowly get it to more complex. And be pretty free with your drawings. The looser and the freer you get, I've found, is the better likeness you get. So, if you watch this whole thing, you're amazing. And I love you. And I'll see you next time. You've been watching The Drawing Show.